Hi, this is Val Campbell, and I just finished my first book, Operation Austin, and I've been sharing with you my experience so that hopefully you can benefit from that and save yourself some learning curve, because I started this with, I think a great idea, and it's gotten rave reviews, but boy, I sure had to learn a lot, and it ended up costing me about almost 4 weeks of rewrites and editing and things to be able to clean up. And if I just done some things a little differently to start with, I would have saved all that time. And I just wanted to share that with you, because in going through different, offerings on YouTube, with all due respect, I just didn't really find that they were that helpful. I found that a lot of them were putting out videos to sell video series or to sell books, and that's great, but that wasn't kind of what I was looking for. I wanted to find somebody that had all this together, especially with a fresh look at it. I think a lot of those people that are doing books on YouTube or videos on YouTube, maybe they forgot what it was like to be a new author. Because I kept saying, well, what about this? And what about that? What about something else? And so I just decided to start real basic and bring it along. Okay, so this is the 6th video. The first 5 were like 5 days of class. Now we're going to do a review. Okay, first, it's important to know the mentality that you're going into this with. Is it going to be a hobby or is it going to be a business? And if it's going to be either one, don't you want a commitment to be really great at your craft, to allow yourself to develop and to learn and give yourself the freedom to be able to do that, to become really good at what you're doing? Because you have stories and ideas inside of you that need to get out into a format that you can share it with other people so that they can experience what you've experienced or what you're feeling. And the way to do that, generally speaking, is through the written word. That's the best form. It's still today. How many times have you heard somebody say, well, I saw the movie and I read the book and the movie wasn't nearly as good as the book? Because you can do things in a book that you can't do in a movie. It just doesn't translate. So there's reasons why people love to read, and sometimes people even don't want to watch the movie. They say, yeah, I don't even think I want to watch the movie because I love the book so much. Okay, so decide whether you're doing this professionally or just as a hobby. The difference is that you might want to structure things so that you can publish it in a certain way in a certain place later. Okay, the next thing is, what genre are you going to be writing into? Is this romance, adventure, science fiction, etc.? Okay. Thirdly, what perspective are you writing in? Is this going to be first person or third person? If you're just writing a short story, it doesn't really make much difference. First person works pretty well, actually, for a paragraph, for a short story. But if you're writing a novel, it is really difficult to control your entire plot line if you're writing in first person, unless it all takes place in one room in one town or something like that. But if you've got multiple towns and different characters, different people that you're involving, it becomes very difficult. Third person is the way to go, especially for your first novel. Give yourself a break and make it a little bit easier for yourself. Secondly, what style are you going to use? What layout? How do you want your titles to look? And I would suggest that you grab some of those great books off your shelf and look and see what fonts and how did they organize the chapters, and how did they affect the layout. Look at what things you like, what made it enjoyable for you to read, and then incorporate those into your work. It just makes sense. If you liked it, it's probably good. And of course, major authors that I've talked about, like Kristen Hanna, Susan Wiggs, Luann Rice, Clive Cussler, on and on and on. All of these great authors that have stood the test of time. Look and see how they're organizing their work and duplicate that to some degree or another. I'm not talking about being a copycat. I'm just talking about pay attention to what works, because you're going to find there's a lot of similarities. Okay, so that kind of covers some of the things we talked about in the first couple of videos. Then there's the mechanics of writing it, and I've just gone through several different platforms looking at different places to write, like Google Docs and Word and Grammarly. I suggest writing in Word, copying, paste it over into Grammarly, and then going through the grammar check and restructuring sentences there, because that's a really great tool. It's like having an editor and a writing teacher right there in one place. They're going to give you a lot of ideas on how to restructure your sentences and make your writing more elegant so that the reader can understand better what you're sharing. Then I bring it back over into Word, because you're going to want to use the navigation pane and some things like that in Word to be able to build your novel. Okay, next. Organization. You're going to need to organize your thoughts and organize your novel. I recommend using a Word document to create just one whole massive document of information and research and character descriptions and all the way down. I showed you some in one of the videos. It was the third or fourth video, I guess, about how I do that. I mean, I've even got pictures of what I think the characters will look like and the clothes they would wear and the boat that they're on, and I mean, all kinds of things. I've got literally, it took me 6 weeks to write this novel. I've got 71 pages of research and information that go into the background and the content of that book. Okay, so the next thing then is I use a spreadsheet to develop timelines and characters. And again, go back and take a look at that video, and you'll see how I use that spreadsheet to divide that up, because I had multiple characters interacting in multiple cities at the same time, moving back and forth and doing different things. My particular genre is, a romance, adventure, spy thriller. So, these people were a mercenary team going back and forth between cities, doing what, mercenary teams do. And I had to keep track of all that in my mind. And I tell you what, it got pretty complicated after a couple of weeks, how I was tying all of those things together. As soon as I pulled that over onto a spreadsheet and got it all laid out, now I could track and follow all of these characters and their development and what they were doing. Okay, so I use a Word doc for my lexicon, I think it would be the term, my repository of information on what I'm doing and all my research. I use a spreadsheet to develop my timelines and my characters. And then the other thing is an outline. And I don't outline a lot. I actually outline mostly on paper. And the reason is it's more of a creative process, and it's just, for me, notes. I want my brain to flow and function through the creation of the work. And so to structure that on a computer doesn't work as well for me. I tend to do it more in writing, and then I will transfer it later over, into my Word doc, my repository, and then I'll put, maybe put the outline points in there. But when I'm creating that, a lot of times I'm up pacing, talking to one of my subject matter experts, or I'm onto my exercise bike and I'm just spinning and I'm thinking about things, and I keep it right there with a piece of paper and a pencil, and I just pull it up and jot some things as I'm kind of outlining and coming up with ideas and questions that need to be answered. Because that's another way that I develop things, is I really come through and I make a list of questions. Who is that character? Where do they come from? How do they get where they are? How do they, what job do they have? Where does their money come from? What kind of a bank are they? I mean, all these, any question I can think of about a character, then I want the answers to those characters, or answer to those questions, be built into and developed as part of the novel. And then I have to figure out sometimes, how do you say that? See, I don't like to read a book where it comes and says, Gary is a 34-year-old, do-do-do-do-do, and do-do-do. I want that information to come out as part of the story. Sorry, I've got 2-year-old children here running back and forth, my 4-legged children. So I want that to come out and develop as part of the story, as the natural evolution of it. I don't want to, to come out and be dropped in as facts. That's not very elegant, right? That's not a very good writing technique. So the next thing that I had to uncover, and some of which I used before and some I hadn't, is how to use Word. And I'm going to suggest that you at least focus on 4 main characteristics of Word. First, the navigation pane. That is critically important. You're going to use that in many different ways as you go through and develop your novel. But ultimately, at the end of your writing experience, you're going to create a table of values, and that's going to become part of your upload into Amazon possibly, or wherever else. But that becomes a hyperlinked index so that people can click on chapter 8 and it'll take them directly to chapter 8. Now that's something that doesn't happen in a printed novel, but it is very powerful in an ebook. So, and you use the navigation pane for that. So how you use your styles, your headings and things like that translates over. Word, it brings those over into the navigation page. So navigation pane, page breaks, critically important. Don't start a new chapter by hitting space, 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 space and go, return, 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 and going down until you got a clean sheet. It's not how to do it. Learn to use your page breaks, okay? Find and replace, super valuable. I can't tell you how many times that's something I used a lot before, but how important that was. You can even replace commas with periods or things like that. You replace words with different spellings or different things. I mean, there's many different ways you can use that, but you get 120,000 characters into a book and you decide you need to change something, a name or the way you spelled a city or something. That's pretty valuable thing to not have to go hunt through all of those. You just find them, replace all, boom, done. Styles, learn how to use those styles, because you'll see that section called styles. How you use the different headers and things like that translates over into the creation of the navigation pane. So that's really, really critical. So I hope this helped a little bit, tell you what the first week of class was like. And we'll take it up from here later when we start getting into formatting and publishing. But for now, it's important that you understand what you're doing and how you put that together. And I'm going to leave off here by telling you that everything that you've seen here that I've talked about will get you to the point where you can upload to KDP is who I chose, Kindle Direct Publishing, and that's Amazon. And there's a lot of videos, about the pros and cons of that. For me, I just decided it was a better use of my time to spend writing the next novel than to try and figure out all of the different places to publish one. I think Amazon's got a 70 or 80% market share. Good enough for me for now. We'll sort that out. So I decided to go with KDP Select, and I'm going to spend the time developing my next novel. And one of the questions that I didn't really see answered much anywhere is, how do you format it? I just uploaded as a Word doc, and it seemed to work fine. So you're going to need to come up with a cover. I developed my own because I've got fairly decent graphic skills. I liked it a lot. Somebody might like something different, but there are people that you can reach out to that will help you develop graphics. There's people on Fiverr. There's people on different sites like that, freelancers that will help you with these things. There are editors. I didn't want to use an editor. I'm ornery enough that I didn't feel like I wanted to use that. And somebody might tell me that I should have. I don't know, but that was just my choice, that I felt I wanted more control over my work, and I wasn't willing to go that route. But a lot of people might want to hire an editor and pay them a couple $100 or something to go through and really edit. I don't have a real strong opinion on that one way or another. That's your personal choice. But again, this was just what I wanted. I wanted to be able to be my own editor, at least at this point. And that meant Grammarly really helped with that a lot, because that is, in essence, an editing platform. So it was great. So I think that's it for now. I will see you in the bookstore.